5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're now tuning in to True Way Gaming Podcast, hosted by One Way Soldier. We answer your gaming-related questions and talk about gaming-related topics. Now available on major platforms like iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, and others, helping you game with a better understanding.
Hey, God bless you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of True Way Gaming. I'm your host, One Way Soldier, or you call me Carl. And here on True Way Gaming, we answer your gaming-related questions and talk about your gaming-related topics. And this is a special episode for me. This is episode 50. And for a special episode, requires a special guest. And this guest, this mighty woman of God, is sincerely and deeply important to me. Because if it wasn't, and you guys heard me bring on Caroline to the show before and heard me talk about my online friends, if it wasn't for this woman right here, praise the mighty King I'm about to introduce, thank you, Lord, I have never met, honestly, the majority of my online friends. And I'm honestly, sincerely grateful to this mighty woman of God here. Amen. Giving honor when honor is due. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, first time ever, best friend here on the show, Mika. Mika, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for asking. Praise God. How's it? Man, this is awesome. Like, yeah, I never pictured you to actually be featured on my show before. Like, how's this feel? Especially the topic that we're about to dive into, right?
I'm ready. I have
You're
my
right.
notebook and everything. I'm ready.
All right. Praise the King. Let's go. Let's dive right in. So, like, listeners, so as you can tell by the title of this episode, Praise the King, this episode is going to be about a list of horror games that we I guess we played or cherished, I should say. I forgot the title this episode. But you know, yeah, I should have thought about that before we started recording. But this is a small list of horror games that we either grew up playing, that was very dear to us, and that we remember. And yeah, we each have written down 4 games. Well, with the exception of a couple, because I sort of written down the game and I've written the sequel down, but you're about to hear that in a few. So yeah. And yeah, Mika is gonna go first. You choose. You're the guest here.
Are you sure I have to go first?
You don't have to, you don't want to. If you want, I could go first.
Yes.
It's your call. Yeah. Pointing the finger at me. All right. All right, let's do this. All right. So the first game on my list, and this is going a little back, way back to the original Xbox. Way back. And lean back. And lean doom. All right, lean back. All right. So yeah, going way back to the original Xbox platform, the first game on my list that I decided to write down is actually Cold Fear. Cold Fear, the release date of this was released back in March 15th, 2005. It released on the original Xbox, PlayStation 2, and I do believe the GameCube, if I'm not mistaken. It was developed by Darkworks, excuse me, and published by Ubisoft. Dang, I think my voice cracked. I was like, Ubisoft. Anyway, you know what? We're gonna leave it in there. We're just gonna continue.
Yes.
Praise the Lord. And the interesting thing about this game is this is actually Ubisoft's first horror title. And this is actually Darkworks' second game after they developed Alone in the Dark, the New Nightmare back in 2001. And what I specifically like about this game is, now, to be honest, I haven't finished it. Probably
fan.
along with the 60 or 70% of my game library, right? No, but this game, what really stands out to me is that, you play as some guy. He's an agent, I believe, and he's gonna check in this abandoned ship that's been abandoned for weeks or whatever. This dude reminds me of Leon. I know they took straight up inspiration of Leon, as you can see this guy in the cover. Well, listeners can't really see it, but here in the video, there you go. Inspiration, Leon with the laser and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was creepy. You know, you go on the ship, there's nobody around. All of a sudden, just a mutant pops out of nowhere, and it's an awesome third person survival horror shooter. And yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked it. I would like to say I got pretty far in the game, but yeah, I just guess I bought a new game and that game took over in that one. But anyway, yeah. So this was the first game on my list, and I like the tone that it set. I like, to me, they captured very well the atmosphere. I like the combat, and again, some of the enemies you fight, they look like zombies, but they're mutated zombies, I guess, and also other creatures. And the weaponry is very good. The only complaint, or I think the major criticism with this game back when it released back in 2005, is that it's only like you could beat this game in 3 hours. It's a short game, especially back at that time for the original Xbox. I mean, games were like $50 brand new, but to spend $50 on a game, or maybe 40, and only get 3 hours worth of gameplay of it, it's not really an investment well spent, you know. So, but yeah. And have you, Mika, ever seen like gameplay footage of the game or ever heard of it?
No, I have no idea what we're talking about.
I showed you gameplay video before we started,
Well, he
but
does look like Leon. When I saw the picture, I was like,
yeah,
"That's
straight
your,
inspiration from Leon.
that's
You
your
know,
boy."
that's my boy Leon, and yeah, and again, and I think the game was received well back at that time, but for whatever reason, well, due to the criticism of it being short, and I don't know how the story ends, but yeah, they never made a sequel, and that was Ubisoft's first horror game. So yeah,
Dang.
it sucks. All right. And yeah, that was the first game that's on my list. Now, Mika, what's on yours?
Uh, let's see.
You got
I'll
this.
try and go in like chronological order of like the times I played them. So, the first one on my list is Murdered Soul Suspect. I did not pay for this game when it came out. It was really short too,
Right,
and
right.
it was free at the time. I don't know, probably like 3 years ago it came out, like for free. I was like, okay,
Nice.
just a
All
new
right.
game to try. Um, Basically, like the whole game is you're playing as like this detective. He's like hunting a serial killer and stuff, which is right up my alley. I
Right,
love
right.
me a good murder mystery and such. But um, and like at the very beginning of the game, like this, I guess you could consider it a spoiler, but I mean it also happens at the very beginning. But the main character, like the person you're playing as, dies like within the first like 5 minutes of the game.
Spoilers. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Please continue.
They
Please
squeeze
continue.
you.
Squeeze me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he's dead. He's gone. He bit
All
the
right.
dust real quick. And so in the game here, he like reappears as like this ghost, and so that's who you play as. It's like you play as the detective's ghost, and you're trying to figure out like who killed you, and like just trying to solve the mystery of like who this serial murderer was and everything. Um, and the main goal is like you're trying to like obviously find the serial killer, but during this time you're also like trying to be reunited with your wife who died like a long time ago.
Aw.
And so it's like, and I was like, go home. Like you gotta find the ending. So you gotta find your wife again. Um, but yeah, basically you're going around finding clues, to the mystery, going around the town, which is kind of based off of like the Salem witch trials. Is kind of like the theme that it gives you, even though it's like more modern time. It's not like actually back in time of the
Okay.
witches.
Right.
It's not like 1700s or nothing. Um, but yeah, and the whole time you're basically guided by this like ghost girl of like this Puritan child, from like the witch trials. She's kind of
Right.
creepy.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. She's like, ooh, yeah, and like,
Ooh.
ooh,
I'm sorry. Ooh.
counselor.
That's- Oh man.
Yeah. But like originally when I first saw gameplay of this, the only reason I wanted to play it was because I saw that like you could become a cat. Like
Nice.
you could play as a cat. I was like, you know what? Sign me up. I don't even care what this game's about.
Right. Game of the year.
Yes.
Nice.
Then I like start playing. It's like, okay, this is kind of creepy. Okay. 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 But
Right.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's full on horror. I would say it's more like of a thriller game than like horror. You know, like it has like scary themes to it and everything, but like I don't
Mhm.
remember a lot of like jump scares from playing it. You know, it's more of
Yeah.
like just disturbing overall.
Hmm.
Yeah. But
And
yeah,
trying to solve your own murder,
your own
basically.
death, literally.
Yeah. That alone is like, okay, how
It's
did this
like
happen? What's going on?
psychological
Yeah, yeah.
more than like yeah.
And what do you think about the difficult? Do you remember like how the difficulty was for this game when you played it? Is it an easy game to go through? Was it challenging puzzles or anything of the sort?
I mean, for me personally, I found it really easy to get through. I think I finished it within like a few days. Maybe that's just because I was obsessed with it at the time. Like I just like plowed through the game. Um, yeah, I remember it being very easy to understand. The controls and stuff weren't that difficult. It was mainly like yeah, like problem solving puzzles and like just following along with the story basically. So yeah, it was pretty easy.
Nice. Okay. And then, so once you beat it, that's it. You were done. Never picked it up again.
No, and now I want to. Now that
No,
I'm like, I
because we're
like
talking
went
about it.
back and talked, like looked up stuff for. I was like, I miss this game. I miss it.
Wow. Awesome. Awesome. That's cool. All right. And then, did you? Last question.
Mm.
Did you achievement hunt for this game, or you could care less about that?
Um,
Praise the Lord.
I wouldn't say necessarily that I achievement hunted, but there was some like not Easter egg, but like collectible things from what
Oh,
I
okay.
remember, and so I remember getting quite a few of those. But I wouldn't
Okay,
say
but never all.
no.
You weren't dedicated enough. You weren't a true fan. No, I was kidding.
That's okay. You just talked about your game, which you never even finished. So I don't
You
want
know,
to.
hey, yes, I take that back. I take. You know
I
what?
don't want
That's
to
a
hear
good
it.
point. That's an outstanding point. Oh man,
At least I finished my game.
that's right, and I give you props.
That's right.
Now I want to make it a mission to actually finish it. 20
Let's
something years
prove
later.
me wrong. Is that what this
Yes.
is? I know.
So I could go back to this episode and be like, haha, it's inaccurate. No, I'm just kidding. All right, no,
Nice.
awesome. I actually got to play that because I remember when that game was released. I remember, I think in E3, I remember seeing gameplay footage, a gameplay demo of it. I was like, you know what? This looks very interesting. Very interesting. And I guess I just got caught up with researching other games that I totally like, oh man, when it actually released, I was like, oh, it released. And I never made the time to sit down and go through it. You know, especially it seemed very deep in narrative.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was back in what, 2013, I think, 14.
14. Yeah.
Yeah, and now we're in 2022, and talk about it now. I can't front. Pique my curiosity. I'm probably gonna dive right into it. But man, like
I'm gonna keep you
the number
accountable to
back up.
that.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna keep you accountable to that.
Please do, please do. Yeah, you know, and yeah, because I was always been interested in the game, and I think it was a game that was featured in Games with Gold. So I think that's where you got it for free,
That's
right? Because I think I
probably
claimed it.
why it was
Yeah,
free.
yeah, Games with Gold. So hopefully I have it, which I'm pretty sure I do. All right.
Out of your 500. It's probably in there. You just gotta dig for it.
Right, right. Yeah,
Type it in the
pretty
search
sure.
bar.
That's right. Press the right button. Right button. You heard me? Y button. I mean, let's just move forward. I'm butchering this up. All right, praise the Lord. Is there anything else that you want to say about this game before we go on to the next game on the list?
I don't know, it's like when I looked it up, I saw a lot of people like criticizing it. I'm just like, they
You
gave this
haters?
game a bad rap for no reason.
Yeah.
They're like the controls were weird and this and it's like it's basic controls. Like it's stupid easy.
All
Like
right.
really, it's not that hard.
It's
It's
not that.
not that hard.
Figure it out, guys.
And yeah, and it was a quick game, which obviously like I wasn't upset about because like it was free. You know, I didn't have to pay $50 for
Right.
it. So it's like
Yeah, yeah.
if it's fast, like that just means I get to play more games after. So
That's right.
it was a positive for me, especially being
Yeah, I
in
like that.
school. Like it was good to have quick games.
Yeah, yeah. Amen. I like the mentality. Yeah, I don't mind it short because I could finish the next game. I like that. I wish I had that mentality tackling my back catalog of games. You know, because
So
me, I'm like I find it as a chore.
all,
You know, like
all the games we were talking about, have you finished any of them?
we'll see as we continue with this episode. Nah, yes, there's been there's been a couple. A
Right.
couple. Thank you, Lord. All right, particularly 3, but we'll get to that. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
After you.
After me. All right.
Fake
So the
fan.
next. I'm sorry.
I said you're a fake fan.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
Shots
Oh
received.
snap. Shots from Texas. Okay. Okay. No. All right. Yeah. So the next games on my list, and I say games, is because I'm gonna be talking about the first part and the sequel, and now is the Suffering Part 1 and Part 2. Ties that bind. So, what I really thoroughly enjoyed about this game, first of all, is back, released back in the original Xbox. Part 1 released back in March 8th, 2004, and then the sequel launched a little over a year later at September 26th, 2005. And what's interesting about this game, excuse me, was that it's a first person / third person. So at any point in the game, you could, with a click of a button, sort of like Elder Scrolls 3, you were able to switch from a first person and third person view. Me, I was too scared. So I always played in a third person view just because seeing those creatures up close, whatever, always scared me as a kid. But with this game, you play as a man named Talk. I think his name is Talk, and he's sentenced to death for murdering his ex-wife and 2 children. As you play through the story, you will notice that it's not so black and white of what's happened. What's also unique about the game is that it features sort of a neurality system. It's as where there's certain decisions that you're gonna have to make in the game, which adds a ton of replayability. And there's 3 different endings. There's a good one, there's a bad one, and it's a neutral ending. Obviously, depending on, there's be sort of situations where you would. I'm trying to remember one scenario. I think there was an inmate. Oh, because you're playing the prison the whole time. At the beginning, you see your main character get locked up, and there's like 5 other prisoners, whatever. They're straight up talking, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, there's all of a sudden creatures that are crawling in everyone's cells and kills them. And you pick up, I think, a piece of metal, and you're fighting your way out the prison, and you're trying to fight your way off the island. And there's this, so there's like creatures roaming around. There's also these, they're like bosses, so to speak. I'm trying to remember. There's like this boss that he's made out of gas from the torture chamber. There's also this. They're sort of like spirits, I guess. Not spirits, but like they were inmates that died in the prison before, and they sort of became like an element, so to speak. So one inmate, for example, he died by gas. He became, well, like after he died, I guess his soul like became like a gas monster, so to speak. Guy died by electrical chair, and so he became like Electric Man, basically, pretty much. And I forgot the third one. And in other words, it features interesting bosses. The weapons are the arsenal of weapons that you use in the game are awesome. And yeah, and I just remember the story gets very interesting. As this different twist. And again, also you have the power in the game to transform into a creature yourself. And depending on your decisions, the game will affect your certain abilities that creature has. And I just remember playing this as a kid, and it was really ahead of its time. Graphical presentation was really good, really outstanding. Voice acting was awesome. And I remember watching my brother. Like, I played more than half of the game. I got too scared, and I watched my older brother beat the rest of the way. And it was really good. I was like, come on, bro, just go in that room. But yeah, I was too scared to finish the game, right? Um, and yeah, it's very interesting in terms of the lore. And then the sequel, well, part one of the endings is you're able to signal a rescue boat, so to speak. And then you're able to escape on that rescue boat with a fellow officer, so to speak. And then part 2 takes place directly where the first one ended, where you're on that boat, and then you go to the city, and then you notice this evil has spreaded through the city, not just the prison anymore. And you're trying to sort of find your way back home, trying to check on. Um, I forgot. I think yeah, you're finding your way through your city. You're trying to stop this evil, and then there's like a few. The graphics I remember being top notch as well. A step up from the first one. They were already looked awesome, and yeah, the story continues, so to speak. I'm trying to. That's the one I never beaten. I beaten part one, I think. Well, I saw my brother beat part one, and then part two, I made it halfway through and never beaten it. Sadly, sad face. But yeah, yeah, and yeah. So to me, there was hasn't been a game like it. I don't know, something about this game where, well, especially nowadays, right, 2022. I mean, horror games, they would easily go to like, oh, there's like a satanic ritual, or oh, so and so open a portal to hell, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. It gets crazy. But back in his days, you know, or back in my time, I should say, 2004 and five, let's just say, um, you know, this was like, oh man, very like out there at the time, but not so much. And it really is a fun game to play. And yeah, I like it a lot. And it was also developed by Surreal Software and published by Midway Games and Sushi Games. And then the PC version, which I do believe released a year later, was published by a studio called Encore, wherever they are. I honestly don't know who they are, but yeah. So yep. Sadly, what Midway. I'm trying to say Midway. Midway got bankrupt back, I think, in 2006, if I'm not mistaken, or 2008. So they are no more. So I don't know who owns the rights to the series. I would like to see this series get remastered at least. But by the looks of it, it's dead. So it never got rebooted or anything of the sort. And yeah. But anyway, it's a game I grew up with, and this is why it's on my list. Any questions?
And it's another game you never finished.
The first one, no, actually, no, I can't say that. My brother finished it, but I got most of the way through. And again, I was young. I was like maybe 10 or so.
You know, I'm hearing a lot of excuses here.
Listen, not as brave as I am now. Okay, that matters. Okay,
Why haven't you like gone back and like finished it?
because we're back on. Because I have responsibilities as an adult, and play Xbox Series X and PS5, and it's original X. I can't. I'm a retro gamer as well. That's not even a valid excuse. I have my Xbox cooked up right there, or anything, but not enough time. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. More excuses. That's what
So I'm curious. Wait, so all the games you're about to say, you've beaten?
Half of them.
Oh.
2 out of 4.
Ah.
One of them I've never actually played. I've just seen like gameplay
Mhm.
of it like 3 times over because I was absolutely obsessed with it.
And you're over here criticizing me? Question mark.
Yes.
Missed 2 games out of 4.
Okay, sassy.
I'm just gonna say, all right, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. So
I mean, you're the one with like the giant game collection and like plays video games all the time.
no, used to, yes,
Yeah.
but not now.
You used
Not
to all
now.
the time.
I used to do it all the time, yes,
Yes.
but not now.
So see,
That's
I
really
have an
shame.
excuse.
Really? And I don't?
Yeah. I have more of an excuse, I feel like.
I think I know what you're gonna say, but again, it's an excuse. But go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, it's
I've had school. College.
right. And me. I had to work. I had to do stuff. I mean, listen, I got responsibilities too, okay? But now that we're talking about this, honestly, I don't know, I miss these games. I actually see myself going back and enjoying these games again, just because they're not made the same way anymore. You know what I mean? And especially with all these microtransactions and blah blah blah. You know. So, what's the next game on your list, Mika?
Nice. All right. My next game. See, I'm going in the order that I played them. So yeah, first was Murdered Soul Suspect, and the second one I ever played was Layers of Fear, which
Layers
I
of Fear.
was absolutely obsessed with. I spent so many like Saturdays just sitting in front of the TV and playing till like 5 o'clock. Like I would wake up early, I would go over to the Xbox and just like play for hours. I was obsessed with
Wow.
it.
Right, right. So like, so this is a game that you actually completed.
Yes.
Nice.
You're like, wouldn't know what that feels like, would you?
I don't know who's being sassy now. What? I'm just hearing gunshots going on. Bang, 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 bang. No, so like, yeah. So after you beat the game, you're saying you continue to look up gameplays through this game, right? On YouTube and stuff, because that's how much you were so into the lore and the game was. Am I hearing you correctly on that?
Not exactly. Like, I was obsessed with it to like hurry up and finish it because I thought the story was really good. Because it was
Okay.
kind of, again, it was like another like mystery. Like I love mysteries. Like
Right,
anytime
right.
I ever like read a book, it had to be a mystery book or I would get bored.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's the only thing that keeps my attention usually. Um,
Mhm.
so I didn't. Whenever I finished it, from what I remember, again, it was a long time ago. Like probably like 2014, 2015 when I played this game.
Uh-huh.
And from what I remember, they ended the story like and everything like finished, as far as I remember. So I never really looked up anything further, just because they did such a good job of like saying everything that needed to be said, like finishing the story. You know, there wasn't anything extra to like find out. You know, they
Right.
explained everything. Yeah.
So I'm assuming you never got to experience the sequel or
No.
the DLC for the first one.
Um. I don't think so. Again, it was one of those games that was, I think, on gold for free that I
Okay,
downloaded.
okay. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it probably didn't come with any like DLCs, and I never played the second one. I want to say the second one is about like the character from the first game. I think it's about his daughter, the second one. Um,
Oh,
yeah, which is like they mentioned her in the first one. But that the first one's more about like the husband and wife, uh,
okay.
in the game. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember playing that. I remember my brother got me into that, and what was it? I remember I used to watch his stream. My brother, Day Shot, when he used to stream that, I saw him complete the first one. No, actually not complete. I saw him play like more than halfway through. But then when part two released, he actually had me play that one, and that one I was like, oh snap, very interesting, like very cool, and a very unique one. I'll say, a very unique horror experience. You know, especially them using like art pieces and artwork, right? Like you ever thought you get scared of a picture?
I'm painting.
Um,
Like,
you have a painting just pop in your face. Oh, the most
then he
horrifying
gets you.
thing. Exactly. I get you. And yeah, and it was fun. It was fun to play that. Never beaten it because he owns the game. I don't. So that's a valid excuse this time.
I mean,
I mean,
come on.
there's
You're
no breaks if
grasping
you
at
have.
straws here. You're grasping at
What's your
straws.
grasp?
You're reaching. You're reaching.
Well, now it's time to mention games that I've actually been.
Well,
To
hold
your
on. I
surprise.
wasn't finished.
Oh, I apologize. Go ahead. Because you started firing shots again, so I thought you were done talking. Go ahead.
No, I just like to do that to you because it's fun.
Go ahead.
Yes. So Yeah, again, I played this game a long time ago. Like, even though I remember playing Murdered Soul Suspect, and like I could remember the story pretty well. But for
Hmm.
whatever reason, like Layers of Fear did not stick with me. Not because it wasn't a good game or anything. It's just like I like did not log it away in my brain of what the story was about. I just remember like playing it all the time. Um, so basically, it's a more like again a psychological horror based in the 1920s, and you're
Okay.
like this psychologically disturbed painter who's like navigating through an old Victorian mansion and like trying to figure out his past and like what happened. So like as you're going through the mansion, like you'll get like flashbacks and like there's this like a bunch of clues and like letters that you're trying to like put together to figure out what the heck happened to this guy because he doesn't remember anything. Um, so you're going through the house and like the house is always changing, and that's kind of how they incorporate like jump scares. Is like you'll go into like this room and then you'll come out and like it's not the same way you entered, even though it's the same door. It's like you
Right.
come out and like there could be like a dead body or like a painting of like it's all blood everywhere, and like the entire house is like always kept very dim. Like the lights are always very dim to like give it that more like creepy effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and I believe there's a total of 6 chapters. It was definitely a longer game than Murdered Soul Suspect. It took me a lot longer to finish this one.
Oh,
Just
okay.
it was like there was so much to explore and like try to figure out. Um, and like the whole point of the game is like yes to figure out your past, but like he's trying to complete this painting. Which I'm from what I remember, it's like kind of telling the story of his past, and so that's why you're like, okay, you're completing the painting, you're a painter, whatever. Um, it does have quite a lot of like darker themes to it when you do find out about his past, so like spoilers. But
Right. Right.
um, yeah, the main thing is like when you start off, you have no idea who this guy is, and as you go along, you find out like this guy was like basically an awful person. Like he's like a drunk, abusive. He like would abuse his wife. His wife left him. There's like some sort of fire that his daughter and his wife got caught up in, and like the wife had to be put in a wheelchair. Um,
Oh wow.
yeah, it was like there was like a lot of dark themes, and like she ended up committing suicide and stuff. It was like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and like that's what drove the painter, the husband, like insane, was because all of that was happening, and like so I think that's if I remember correctly, I think that's why like he's trying to piece everything together is because like it drove him literally clinically insane. um and so he's trying to like piece back his life, and so like at the end of the game you like find out like everything that happened, and like it all comes together, and like there's these like pieces of like letters that I think were from the wife and stuff, and so you find those and like you piece all the things together, and like you finally found everything out. It's like, oh my goodness, like, this is
Oh
dark.
my goodness.
Like I thought this was just
More-
a creepy painting game, but no, it's like so much
Yeah,
deeper
creepy
than
painting
that.
game. Creepy painting game.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought like Crayolas come to life. Like no, I was kidding. But man, as you were talking, made me want to cry.
I
It's a deep
know.
story.
It's like
So part two, you're saying it's his daughter?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's like this fire that the wife and daughter were caught up in, and I think like the daughter obviously survived, but I think she was like injured, and then the wife was like injured to the point of being in a wheelchair. And the
Hmm.
thing that like kind of drove her to suicide was because she was like basically maimed by the fire. Her husband said that she lacked beauty and like was basically like back to
Wow.
being abusive even after the fire, and she was like, that's it, I'm done. Like,
Right.
out y'all, I can't take it no more.
Right.
But yeah. So yeah, I believe the second game takes place with the daughter. I have no idea because I never played it, but
Right. And the daughter, she saw the mom saying, "Peace out, I'm done," and she's trying to. I was trying to come up with a joke, but I think I'm just being corny now, so I'm gonna move on. No,
yeah.
but
Let's move on to a game. You've
Wait,
completed.
wait, 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 wait. I dismiss myself here. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. No, bro. No, but it's so now that you're bringing up part one,
Hmm.
are you willing to go back and try not only the DLC but the sequel?
I would definitely try the sequel. I would probably I probably wouldn't play Layers of Fear again. Not that it wasn't good. It was just like I feel like I could just watch gameplay of it, and that would be faster.
Right.
Because I like to take my
That'd be fast.
time. Yes, and
Yeah,
also
yeah,
like I can pull that up anywhere. I don't have to be at home to watch it. You know,
yeah.
so I would probably watch gameplay of the first one again, like maybe do the DLC, and then do the sequel.
Right, right. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And whenever you do start, you'll watch it. But if you ever did decide to play, let me know. I'll watch you play it. I think that'll be awesome. Hey,
2 day shipping
stream
on
it.
you?
That's right. On me. Streaming live. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. All right. And um, that's it.
Yeah, I'm done. You can speak now.
Awesome. Make me feel rude. All right. So my third game on the list, and these two games I've actually completed. Yes,
Finally,
completed.
it's about time.
Guys, the guest has to leave. So no, all right.
Like all that
And yeah,
stuff in the beginning, didn't mean it. Didn't mean
no,
it.
I mean it. But I don't know, guys. When she comes on the air, personality changes. No, I was kidding. I was kidding. I'm so sorry. All right. The next game on the list that I want to talk about is Condemned 1 and Condemned 2 Bloodshot. Well, Condemned Criminal Origins, that's part 1. Condemned 2 Bloodshot, that's the sequel. And the reason why I chose this game, because actually Condemned 1 was a launch title back for the Xbox 360. It released back in November 15th, 2005. It was also published by Monolith Productions, and it was published by Sega and the Game Factory Part 1. The sequel was developed by the same team and also published by just Sega instead of the Game Factory. And what intrigued me back in this was it was a first person melee combat. There's also guns in the game. You play as a FBI agent, Thomas. In the beginning of the game, you're going to investigate a crime scene, a homicide in this abandoned building, and sure enough, there was some suspects in there still. And you go and chase them down. All of a sudden, there's this killer that um, was able to ambush you, steals your gun, and shoots the two other officers that were with you. And he sort of pins a murder on you. So in the first one, yeah, because he tosses you out the window at the end of the first level. Spoilers is the first level, and now the FBI is trying to. They think that you're the one that shot the two other officers because you never sort of reported it. Hence, you were knocked out for a long time. You were tossed out a window. So yeah, the FBI, excuse me, is after you, and you're sort of trying to clear a name, and you're also trying to find this serial killer. But what's unique about the game, or I should say, is that, or what back when the game came out, was just again the melee combat. Um, it was sort of it's not brutal, but you use like 2x4s, pipes, fire axes, shovels, etc., to fight your way through. There's moments in the game where you do have a weapon, like a pistol or a shotgun, even though it's rare. But when you do pick up those weapons, you're very limited on ammo, so you have to choose wisely when to shoot. And just also, there's moments where, again, you are Thomas, who is an FBI agent. You have sort of gadgets that will you have to investigate certain crime scenes. You will look for fingerprints. You will look, adds a little bit of a mystery to it. But what kept me going with the game was the action and also the story. You know, um, and then yeah, I remember the first one ending where you were able to clear your name. You were able to kill the serial killer. At least you thought you killed them. And then the sequel, because of all the stuff that he's been through, all the backlash from the media and stuff, he decides just to quit the force, and he became a drunk. But a scenario, a certain situation does happen, and Thomas, he was the best guy in the force. So they look for Thomas and they, require his help again. And what's really cool is that they also expanded from the gameplay from the first one. So not only, well, gameplay, where the first one, you can't use hand-to-hand combat. All the way to fight is you don't pick up a melee weapon. The only thing you could do is kick, and kick only stuns an enemy and doesn't kill him. So you could kick an enemy 20 times, he won't die. He would just spin around and be like, oh, and then swing at you. Um, yeah, so you had to pick up a melee weapon, and so you couldn't use hand-to-hand combat. They sort of fixed that in the sequel. The sequel, you're able to use hand-to-hand combat. And also with, like I mentioned, where firearms were scarce in the first one, in the sequel, they're much more available. And there's even actually an exclusive FPS mode in the sequel if you just want to shoot things up. And what's really cool is that also, not just gameplay, they made the game better, also the kind of enemies you fight. There's more enemy variety, and there's also um, a whole like challenge mode that you could do, where, for example, there's a challenge where in 3 seconds you have to take out 3 enemies, for example, and there's a whole like leaderboard system. Matter of fact, I believe I was 20th place in the world out of 1,000 people in that challenge. I was so proud of myself. And yeah, I played that game a lot. I played that game so much. I played the game on all the difficulties. FPS mode was fun, and yeah, it was just, the combat is just so satisfying in the game, and then also just the lore as well. And I feel like too, part two became more psychological horror than the first one. I remember there was this one level in Condemned 2 Bloodshot which scared the bejeebies out of me. And I guess, I don't know if it's in a dream or so, but it's a level where you're playing in a hospital. And by the end of the level, all of a sudden the floor is filled with like ink, like flooded with like water, but it's not water, it's like ink. And all of a sudden there's these creatures that just pop up from the ink, and they're charging at you. They look crazy. They're just popping out all over. They spawn at any moment. You're like, oh, you're shooting them or you're hitting them, whatever. And all of a sudden they just start like rabbits, start like multiplying like crazy and like jumping like on you in slow motion, and it's really horrifying. Um, and yeah, I just remember that. Yeah, it was dope, and they also expanded as well as the crime investigation too. They give you better tools to investigate crime scenes and etc. What's also what you see, when I was younger, and again, this is before I met you, Mika, is that I didn't have a lot of people to play with. So this game, for the first time in the series, also featured multiplayer, and it had some modes are a little bit crazy. So one mode was called, I think it was like Bum Hill. So you play as bums, and it's a king of the hill. You're fighting to control the hill, but you're playing as bums. It's hilarious. But then also there was this mode called Crime Scene, where one team they play as um, hooligans, almost said hood rats, but yeah, like just bad people, and you have a severed head in a case. And I think the round starts. When the round starts, you have 20 seconds to sort of hide inside the map. So, for example, a map could be a house, three family house. For example, you and your team would have to like set up, because all you have is melee weapons. And you have to try to hide this head so that way the FBI doesn't find the head. As to where the other team that plays as the FBI, they have a scanner that's able to scan, or I should say trace where the head is. And the FBI though, they're all strapped with guns. I'm talking about shotguns and like revolvers, and even a semi pistol. As to where the hooligans, all they have is melee weapons. They can't pick up the gun, or rather, for them to pick up a gun, they have to kill an agent and pick up their gun. So, in other words, that mode adds sort of a strategy. It's a little bit imbalanced because obviously, if the people know what they're doing on the FBI team, know how to actually hit their shots, then you're left at a disadvantage. But at the same time, if you're the other team, if you're good at melee combat, you could toss your melee weapon and sort of stun them and try to grab the weapon out of their hands. It was an interesting mode, and there was a few other modes that was very unique. Unfortunately, this game didn't really become popular for long, so the multiplayer fan base, I guess, died out, so to speak. And for some weird reason, the first one is backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X and Xbox One. Part 2 is not. So I really felt like it was really disappointing because Part 2 obviously came out in March 11th, 2008. Um, I would think that the licensing for this game is much more available than the first one. And to me, I know I'm disappointed it's not, because it would have been a great opportunity to sort of revive the fan base for the game and revive the multiplayer servers. Um, but yeah, it's not backwards compatible. Only part 1 is, sadly. One. And yeah, so these two games, yes, crying emoji, and I cried for a long time. I cried for an hour. So yeah, and yeah, and this game, yeah. So these two games I actually beaten. The way part 2 ended, they could have left it. They left it open for a sequel, but I guess part 2 didn't grab a big enough audience because they had more room in the budget, and it wasn't just a 360 exclusive. Part 1 was a 360 exclusive in PC. Part 2 was Xbox, I do believe PC if I'm not mistaken, but PS3. Oh no, it's not PC. It was Xbox and PS3. And yeah, I think it just didn't gather enough attention to actually fully make a sequel, part 3. And so Sega never revived the franchise. Crying emoji insert. Yep.
Tears.
That's right. But I did beat these two games, and I'm happy. So
See,
yeah.
the real question here is if they had made a part 3,
Oh great! I
would
already
you
know what
have
you're gonna say.
finished it?
Just like I did for part 1 and part 2. Absolutely, I would have streamed it.
Oh. So that's why you never finished the other 2 games, was because you were busy with these games, beating every difficulty.
Right? Yeah.
It's all
Well,
it's all coming
it's
together.
welcome. Right. Well, the the 3 other games, Cold Fear and Suffering Part 1 and Part 2, came out when I was a kid. These games came out when I was a kid. No, but I was a
Right.
teenager. I was a teenager
And you
at this
still
time. I
own
was in high
them the
school.
whole time,
When I was a
right?
teenager, I was a little bit more dedicated with my games. I used to achievement hunt, and I was much more dedicated. But when I was younger, it's more I play the game. Oh, I didn't beat it. I didn't move on to the next one, and the next one, etc.
I can tell by like your gamer score on Xbox. Like when I first friended you, I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many, there's so many, like over 100,000." Like, oh my goodness.
Your first thought, seeing my gamer score, like, yo, this guy is an obese guy living in his mom's basement. That's all he does all day. It's just no life games, right?
No,
Oh man,
I could tell you really, really liked video games. Man,
right? Yeah, I mean, do you remember how much my gamer score is now? Quick quiz.
isn't it like 190 or something? Like
Very close.
190,000, something like that.
Very close.
Is it
It's
191?
190,000 something.
Is it a 190? 36? 35?
No,
No. Is it like
it's one. Okay.
is it like 3 digits or like 2 digits?
No, it's no, it's 6 digits. Wait, yeah, 6 digits. It's 100. Oh, you want me to tell you? Or you want to guess again?
Well, when I say 3 digits, I mean like it's 190 and then like the other 3.
Yes,
All
it's
3?
190. Yeah, it's 190 something, something.
Okay. Is it
In the thousands place. There you go.
nice? Is it 190, 130?
No,
Don't think it.
higher.
Higher? Gosh. See? Obsessed. I'm just kidding. What is it? What is it?
It's 198,000, and I think 600 gamer score.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you're almost
So I
at
was that obese guy in the no, I was kidding. I've been working out and stuff. I lost like over, 70 pounds, I think. Anyway, yeah, a lot of weight. But praise God. Xbox Live. I think for 12 or 13 years now, I was an Xbox Live member. And yeah, I was achievement hunter back when I was in high school. So yeah, I beat a game, but I hunted achievements. So like if you look at Turok, for example, the reboot that released back on the PS3 and Xbox 360, I got all the achievement score for that, which is very hard, very difficult to do, but I did it, and so many other games. But I also bought a lot of games, and because I played so many and gotten far in them, never finished them, I was able to accumulate a lot of scores. Sadly, so yep. Enough about me. Back to you.
Back to
What is the next game on your list?
my next game. Oh yeah, here's where we enter the gray area of games I never finished.
Wah, wah,
So
wah.
yes, and I probably will never ever finish this game. It is
Really?
Outlast, and
Wait, what? You'll never finish it?
I don't think I could ever get past it.
What? Okay.
It's too scary. I can't. I'll have a heart attack and die the day I finish that game.
Oh man.
It's too
So
much.
you got to give me more details here. So like,
Yes.
because you played some pretty scary games. You played some pretty scary games. Outlast. Why for you personally is it so horrifying? Is it because you're sort of a victim of circumstance, to where you can't defend yourself? Well, I'll let you explain. Go ahead.
Yes. That's a good point. Because yeah, in most games like, um, I guess for example like games like Layers of Fear, it's like, yes, it's like horror and it's like creepy and stuff, but you're not fighting anything. You're just kind of going along with the story and getting scared along the way. You're not actually having to like fight anything.
Right.
And this one, they're just throwing stuff at you and you can't defend yourself. You're just walking around with a stupid video camera
Handy
with,
dandy camera.
yes, I hate that stupid thing. With its night vision, which barely works and you can barely see anything. And I always forget the controls for it. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, this button, and then like something pops out. I'm like, how do I turn on my night vision? Like I can't see. I don't know
Right.
what's going on. I'm like running into the wall, and all of a sudden it's like I'm dead. You know, like I got caught. It's like,
Right.
why am I here? Why am I here? It's just, it's too much. Like I remember I
Too much.
played it.
Mm.
I remember one of my siblings played it, and they like, oh, like you should play it. You know, trying to like basically get me to play it so because I knew I'd get scared. And I was like, you know what? I've played, scary games before. I watch horror movies. Like, this is not gonna be a big deal. They're just babies, you know. And so
They're just babies.
I decided it was at night, which was a bad idea. I'm pretty sure most of my family was asleep or like downstairs, having dinner, and like I was upstairs alone playing this game in the dark. And literally within like the first 10 minutes, I turned it off. I turned it off as soon as like the first it was like the first or second jump scare. I was done. I was so scared. I was already like looking behind me and like making sure there wasn't something there. That's how just like
Mm.
bad it was. Especially since it's like an insane asylum, which are usually stories I love. But I guess it's because like I don't know, they threw so much jump scare into the beginning without enough story for me to like
Okay.
for it to grab my attention yet. Cause like
Right.
I
Right.
feel like if you would play the game all the way through, obviously like they would explain like what's going on, like why is this happening, but they didn't really, in my opinion, they didn't really give you enough details. Cause at the beginning it's just like jump scares, jump scares, jump scares. I'm like, okay, what's going on? I'm just wandering around this insane
Right. Right.
asylum, and there's all these like creepy people just jumping out at me, like, hello, like,
Bobby. No,
yeah,
it's good.
this isn't funny anymore. Yeah, so like, there's a few reasons like I'll probably never finish it because like I can't do it. I mean, you watched me play it. You
I
heard
have.
me screaming.
Yes. Yes. I have.
It was bad. That was the farthest I'd ever gotten, and that was what, like,
When I watch you play?
yeah, that was as far as I ever got. I even like went back and like tried to go a little farther than that, and I couldn't do it. Like I
Right.
could not do it. It was just. I don't hate that game. I know it's probably like a really, really good horror game, but I can't get through it. It's too
Right,
much.
right.
It's too much for me.
So may I kindly ask you a question? Is that all right?
Yes.
So for you personally then, you matter of fact, it's funny because I think I saw a meme that you posted. You're able to watch somebody play this beginning to end, no problem. You're able to watch it, like
Mhm.
a playthrough on YouTube, etc. But for you personally to play it, you can't. That's correct.
Yeah, like I was watching. So I want to say like Jacksepticeye played through Outlast, and so I was watching that, no problem. But if you put the controller in my hands, like, no, no, it's not happening.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Awesome. Okay. And so so you never really seen the ending of the game. Like, have you watched it far enough so you know what happens at the end, or no? You probably seen it halfway and like, oh, I want to finish this game, and then you never did. Correct?
Literally, I literally don't know what the game's about. I literally don't know. I never saw the ending. I haven't gotten like I just started watching gameplay of it recently. So yeah, I haven't even gotten past like the parts I played. Like as far as I
Really?
got, like I haven't seen past that. Like so I have like literally no idea what's going on.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So, all right. But in other words, like, you don't know what's happening, and are you curious to see what happens at the end? So let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, I'm willing, like, hey, I'm willing to play through this game. Are you willing to watch me? Would you do it?
Yes.
And that's the only way you will see the ending of this game. Because other than that, it will always be a mystery.
Yes.
Okay.
Cuz
Awesome. Awesome.
I hate doing it again. I tried. I really
I'm proud of you.
see cuz like the first time I played it was like years ago. So I was like, "You know what? I can do it." You know, it's been years. I'm older. I've watched a bunch more like I've gotten a lot more into like horror movies and stuff. Like this is going to be no big deal. Right?
Right.
Wrong. It was exactly the same. I was just as scared and I was just as confused. I didn't know what was happening.
Right. Right. All right. Awesome. I mean, so like, you're just as confused. So, and that goes the same thing with because I think part three. I was telling you, part three was announced, and
Mhm.
that's going to be actually a cooperative game. Have you heard about it at all? And if you have, are you interested in it?
You see, I don't know if it's anything like the first one.
I think it's gonna be worse than the first one, to be honest.
Do we know? Have they said like what setting it's in? Like, is it in like the mental hospital again, or are we moving on somewhere else?
More like it's gonna be you're gonna be hunted by killers, and you and your friends will have to work together to escape. That's the last time I did research on it, or based on the trailer I saw or I've seen. So I don't know. I don't think it's in Insane Asylum. Part two was a cult,
Hmm.
and so I'm not sure what the part three is, other than it's just a crazy psycho game, so to speak, where you killers are just hunting you and they're making like a game out of it, so to speak. You know?
See, I feel like that one would be better than the first one, just because
Really?
like if I was able to play with like friends and stuff, like that would make it better.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I think I can get through it. I say that now,
Yeah.
I'll probably like check it out within the first 10 minutes, but
Yeah, I'm really curious how they're gonna pull that off because I think, if, to my knowledge, to this day, they still have not released any official gameplay footage of the game, only trailers. So I've been keeping a lookout on that, and yeah, hopefully this year Gamescom is coming, so stay tuned. Was there any other thing anything else you want to talk about in regards to Outlast?
I mean, there's not much again because I haven't finished it, so I really don't know what's happening.
Right, right.
Other than just, I would like to know the ending. Like, I want to know what happens. Um, and like maybe if I saw gameplay, like maybe if I saw gameplay, I would be able to like say, oh, once you get past that part, it's not as bad as like the beginning or something. I don't know. I feel like maybe it gets worse, but maybe I'll
Right.
finish it. I
I
don't think
finished
I
it. Yeah,
will.
it does get worse. Like a lot. But
There's
yeah, sorry, spoiled that for you.
spoilers.
Okay. Spo- All right, cool. So like the last game on my list, it's actually a game based off a movie. And you ever heard of that curse where games or movies, well, we heard that movies based on games, they suck, they always do bad. But we also heard the reverse side where video games based on movies, they're terrible. But this one actually is a masterpiece. And the game is is Saw. Da-na-na, da-na-na, da-na-na-na-na. So now, for this episode, I know I'm only talking about part one. I know, like for Condemned, I talked about Condemned 1 and 2, Suffering 1 and 2. This one does have a sequel, and I do own it. Only played like 5 minutes of it just to see if the disc worked. But I haven't gone far in the game, part two. But part one, I have not beaten. I've gone halfway the game. And yeah, this game was released back at October 2009. It was published by Konami and also Brash Entertainment and developed by Zombie Studios. Never heard of them before, but they have made a masterpiece. What's really cool is that this takes place during the Saw universe. You don't play as any characters from the movie. Other Jigsaw's in the game, of course, the pig, etc. Um, but you're playing. I don't know. In the beginning, I remember you being in this, I do believe, mental hospital where there's Saw games, Saw traps all over. I forgot the character you're playing as, but you're sort of going through traps. You're in a Saw game. In the beginning, you wake up in the bathroom. You would it's cool. You see a mirror, and there's a door that's locked, and there's a code. And how you get the code is that if you were to go to the stalls, close the doors, there's like numbers that are written like backwards, and you look in the mirror and you see the numbers. Like, in other words, it really has, like, this game, what I like about it is that it has unique puzzle solving into it. It also does feature hand-to-hand combat. There would be scenarios in the Saw game where, only one of you guys can leave this room alive. You got to beat each other to death. You got to do what you got to do to survive, kind of thing. And um yeah, and I just remembered, like, playing this. The reason why I never finished it is because there's been jump scares of the Saw pig, and scared me to the point. This is when I was younger, back in 2009. It scared me to a point. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna wait until my brother comes and he could take over and play this or whatever. And yeah, I stopped at where I was, and then I watched my brother play through it. He never beaten it, I think, but I saw him play through literally most of the game, and it gets really intense. And they did a well, like, they did a very, very good job on making a game, like, incorporating the core aspects of what the movies are and putting that into a video game, and also doing a good job of not just puzzle solving, like the movies do, is always puzzle solving, but also feature action in there to sort of keep you going. And to me, the pacing was very well done based on what I've seen and based on literally what I played. And yeah, I highly recommend this game, and it's awesome. Now the sequel wasn't really received as well because they changed up that, there's moments where you're gonna have hand-to-hand combat, but they changed stuff around. And what I mean by that, because they also have a demo you could play on the Xbox 360. But like Saw, like for example, like the X button is to do heavy punches, right? A is to do quick attacks and block, etc. You have to do that manually. Part two, they switch up the melee combat to where it's quick time events. So when somebody runs up to you, you have to press A now, and if you don't, they're gonna knock you one. You know what I mean? And that they sort of ruined something that they had good. And yeah, part two, the graphics were good. I think part two is much more brutal, especially part one. I mean, part two, the first level. I mean, the first level, you're like cutting open your own eye. You have to take a key out of your own eye, and you have to stitch your eye back together. Really brutal, really gruesome. And yeah, but in other words, I just thought it was an honorable mention. Saw, because again, it's based off the movie. It was a great game, very well received. Excuse me, the first one. Part two, not so much. And what's really cool is if you were to actually look at pricecharting.com, where that's a website where game collectors as myself, you could look up retail, like how much games are cost on the market, how much games cost on the market, the secondhand market. And Saw 1 and Saw 2 are actually both rare games. And I'm happy I have them both in my collection. And yeah, and it's really cool. Hey, so yeah, that's my final list. Give my list. And any questions? Have you ever seen the Saw movies? Do you know what Saw is, Mika?
I've heard of it and like I've seen stuff on it, but I've never watched the movies or played the game.
Good. No, I was kidding. No, but so the movies, part one, two, and three was good. But back when I was a kid, we haven't really seen anything like that. I mean, it was, how should I say? Because the movies I don't really consider horror. I know this may sound weird, but I just see them as, there's a certain term for it I'm trying to use, but they're very, very, very gruesome films. And yeah, as a kid, I'm like, oh, like this is awesome, right? But now that I'm older, not to age myself, but yeah, I don't know, it's hard for me to watch, and also, it's not easy to watch. And me, like I grew up, like my dad, he used to, when I was younger, he used to show me like horror movies, like for example, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that was gruesome. Yes, it was. But slasher films like Friday the 13th, right? Nightmare on Elm Street. Um, what's it? Scream. There you go. Stuff, movies like that. So like I grew up watching horror movies, and that's what sort of got me into also just playing games, right, on the horror franchise. But yeah, I don't play as much anymore. But Saw, yeah, very gruesome. But the game itself, I feel like it's weird. I feel like the game does better than the movies because they kept that core aspect where Saw traps, and there's some brutal scenes in there, but at the same time, it's actually a horror experience. Like I mentioned with the Saw pig, there's actually jump scares. There's actually some creepy, like, wait, what the heck? Did I just see that? Kind of moments where I feel like they don't capture in the movies. And that's why I really do recommend the game. The movies, not so much, in my opinion. And yeah, so I do recommend the game.
Yay!
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what is the last game on your list?
You see, this isn't even really a horror game. I mean,
What, Slime Rancher?
no.
Just kidding.
It's Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Let's
You
go.
just said that's not really a horror game. Did you really just say that?
No,
That's a terrifying game.
you've never played it.
I did.
No, you
Well,
didn't.
Security Breach. Well, the one you're talking about
Yeah.
is Security Breach. Okay, I have not. Sorry, but I thought.
I was like, hey, squeeze you.
No, yeah. I'm talking about the originals. I'm talking about 1, 2,
Yeah.
3, etc.
Yeah, that
I haven't
was.
played Sister Location, but yeah,
You haven't played Sister Location?
no.
That's like the best one.
I have responsibilities. I'm just kidding. Oh.
Excuses. Literally, we're gonna play Black Ops after this. There's no.
Go on.
You can't just mute your mic.
All right. I didn't want to interrupt you speaking, but go ahead.
Oh no.
As you were saying.
Yes. So I've actually never played this game. Because whenever it first came out, it came out last year. Yeah, it came out last year. And I was obsessed with it. Like I usually wait for gameplay to come out from Jacksepticeye, because that's what me and my sister, whenever we want to watch like a horror game or just a scary game, we usually watch Jacksepticeye's gameplay. But he was taking too long. So me and my sister were like, oh, okay, let's try Markiplier. So we watched that all the way through. And then when Jacksepticeye's version came out, we watched that one all the way through. And like
All right.
we were both so like obsessed with the game, and like we would just spend our Saturdays like whenever she was off of work and I was off of school, just like watching all of it. Like over
Right,
and over.
right.
And I think personally for this one, again, I don't really consider this one as horrifying by any means, compared to other FNAF games. There are some more, what's it called, like spookier themes to it, because this one you're like in, the setting is like you're in a mall. So there's like this daycare area where they have the new
Mhm.
animatronics of Sundrop and Moondrop. And those guys are creepy. That scene is
Really,
definitely
really,
that seems
really creepy.
definitely really, that seems pretty bad. Um but it's like not, out of the grand scheme of the entire game, it doesn't take up a lot of space. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
it's not an entire thing. Like it's one puzzle you complete, and then like you see Moondrop every now and then, and like you never see Sundrop again. Um, at least from the gameplays I saw.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Ooh.
Go
Watch
ahead.
out. Yeah, spoilers for you because you haven't played it or seen it. So my bad.
Do plan to. And I've seen a little bit of it.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So for this one, it's less of like, it's more like free roaming, because you play as this dumb kid named Gregory. He's like this stupid 10-year-old. He's so annoying. That's besides the point. And
Okay.
you get Gregory befriends Freddy, and so they're like wandering around the entire complex trying to like escape, because this dumb kid stays after the mall closes, and he's trying to get out. Um, without getting caught by the security guards or anything. And so Freddy's trying to help him get out, also without getting killed by any of the animatronics, like Chica.
Right.
And they actually did get rid of like Foxy and replace them with like Roxy. I'm just like, why didn't y'all just keep
Come on, man.
Foxy? Like,
Right,
why
right,
did you have
right.
to create a new animatronic with like the same name, and it's not a fox anymore, it's a wolf? It's like, come on, guys. That was like a little bit like, why'd y'all bother? But other than that, and then the other new animatronic was Monty Gator. And out of the gameplay I saw, like you didn't really see Monty a lot, because there's technically like 6 different endings to the entire
Wow,
game.
6.
Yeah, there's a lot. And like when it first came out, there was a ton of like bugs in the game. There was always like problems going on. Um
Hmm.
So I don't think I ever saw, like, from the gameplay I watched, I don't think I ever saw like a complete ending. Cause like when I was researching this before we started recording, it was like there was stuff about like one of the endings involves like Springtrap, and it was like I was reading, it was like saying all this stuff. I was like, I don't remember seeing like any of that, because the game was so bugged out that you couldn't even really finish that part of the game.
Wow.
It was like
Wow.
so bad, like, because you're supposed to like, Freddy was supposed to help you with this or that, and like in the gameplay, like Freddy was just stuck, like he was just sitting there, or like you would just die, and it's like you kept dying over and over again. It was like, what is going
Wow.
on? um but yeah, there's a bunch of endings, and there's a bunch of different ways you can go. For example, like you're supposed to like disable all the animatronics, but you can only get to like 2 or 3 of them before the game is like, okay, like the doors are about to open, you can go free. So that's where kind of the other endings come in, is like, oh, you can choose to go back and like disable Monty, or if like you didn't disable Chica, you can go disable Chica, or you can go disable Roxy instead. Like that's kind of where all the different things come in, and then it shows you like different ways it would end. Um, but yeah, it's a really fun
Interesting.
game, at least to watch. I've never played it, but it was like, I don't know. It's more for me. It was more fun than scary. I guess it was more like, um, I don't know. I guess it's because I hadn't seen a FNAF game in so long. It's like it's been so long since they made one, and so when it finally came out,
Right.
it's like I don't even care. Like it's Five Nights at Freddy's. I love Five Nights at Freddy's. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to see it. I don't
Hmm.
care if it's good or bad. And it ended up being really good, but it's definitely not as scary as like, or like ominous as like Sister Location. And that was the other thing with this one. It was like this one really has nothing to do with any of the old ones, which was kind of disappointing because it's like all the lore from the old FNAF games. Like this one had nothing to do with it, so like it didn't
Wow.
tie up any loose ends or anything. And I was hoping with the Springtrap ending, like they would explain something or something would happen. But again, like the game was so bugged out, I never got to see it. So I'm just like, maybe I should just play it and find out. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. So yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions for you, because was like, all right, you've seen this game twice, all the way through. Would you actually try this game yourself, beginning to end? Right?
I
Because seeing
think,
is one thing, as we have previously expressed with Outlast, but
yeah,
playing it, would you play it?
I probably would at one point, like if I had just time. Because it is, from what I remember, it's a pretty long game. Like it just takes a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of time because there's just, like I said, you gotta disable the animatronics. So like you gotta disable Chica, so you have to go to this specific thing and do this and do all that. And then you have to
Right.
like, there is this one scene. Okay, the entire game itself, again, I wouldn't consider necessarily that bad compared to the old ones, but there's this one scene where these like, um, I guess they were just like exoskeletons of animatronics that just had no like casings on them. Um,
Okay.
and they were everywhere, just standing there, and you would have to go through. Um, and it was almost like, I don't know if you've ever seen Doctor Who, but it was like the weeping angels in Doctor Who, where it's like if you look at them, they don't
Yeah.
move, and then if you turn away, they'll move
Oh,
and
they
like
move.
chase
Okay.
you. Um, and then you have to like look at them, and then they'll stop. So like that part was good. I love that part. That is probably the only part. Like if I played the game, I'd be like, I'd probably get stuck there for sure.
All right.
But everything else, like as long as the game isn't really buggy anymore, I feel like I could get through it.
All
Um,
right.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. That's awesome. So then, how should I say? Like, yeah, so you would play it again. Um, do you think that the gameplay for Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, well, I think you expressed that one thing you desire from this game was more horror elements, like the originals had.
Mhm.
But in terms of gameplay, in terms of it being sort of free roam, right, in a area and animatronics running around, do you think that this is a good pace for the series, like a good change for the series moving forward? Would you like to see another entry of the series with similar gameplay mechanics that Security Breach offers?
Yes, I think it was a great idea the way they did it. Um, I just, again, I wish it was with the old characters, and like I
Right.
wish they tied up some more loose ends instead of like, because people like make up stuff. They
Yeah,
have
yeah,
all their
yeah.
like the wiki
Crazy theories
fan
out there.
page, yeah, the theories and stuff. Um, so like if they did another Five Nights at Freddy's game, and it was, let's say if they like kind of redid the original, except with these mechanics where like you're the security guard but you're wandering around the pizzeria at night, like that would be super creepy and really good. I think that's a great idea. You know what?
All right,
Let's just call the developers right now.
let's do it. Let's
Let's
make
do
the
it.
remasters, remakes.
Yes.
That's wow. Yeah, and then a platform where you're choosing, which platform would you choose to experience this game on? PC, PS4, or PS5?
Xbox.
I don't think. Excuse me. I mean, I don't think there is an Xbox version. No, yeah, there isn't. Yeah, maybe it'll come later. Hopefully, I think that would be dope. Where they release an Xbox version and all like the patches and stuff is like it's on disc and stuff. I would like that, and also get achievements. That would be pretty cool. But I do
Up your
believe it's
gamer
a
score.
PS4. You know it. I mean, the game is pretty long and has 6 different endings. I'm not sure if I'll ever get that achievement, but never say never. Am I right? Never say never.
No.
Okay.
Justin Bieber.
What? What do you mean? All right, cool. So like, but like, any final thoughts on Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach?
I would definitely
Birthday's coming
recommend
up.
it.
You definitely recommend it.
I would definitely recommend it.
Nice.
It's a fun game. I guess not as like, it's definitely not an OG, but it's, I feel like it's more, this may sound wrong, but family friendly. Like it's still like creepy in the sense of like, you know, the animatronics are after you, you know, they're chasing you, but like for example, when you get like caught, it's not like the old ones where they're like up in your face and like
Oh,
their
your mic
jaws
is
are opening.
your mic is breaking out just a little bit. Sorry about that. Can you please continue what you were saying.
Are you okay?
I'm okay. Please continue.
No, I guess it's more like, I feel like they made this game like less scary so that more kids would play it.
Yeah. Like there you go. There you go. Yeah. Sorry, but they made it less scary so that way kids could play it. You're saying?
I think so, personally. Like, yeah, like I went to that I was telling you that Comic-Con I went to last weekend, and there was someone dressed up as the Sundrop character, and like there was this little kid that went up and like, I want a picture with him, mommy. We're just like,
What?
child,
Yo, that's
like
crazy.
that's a child. She's like, oh yeah, you know, my kid's obsessed with that character. I'm just like,
Oh, I hit my mic. My accent. That's crazy. What? To me, that's the scariest. Well, again, I haven't seen the gameplay beginning to end because I want to experience it myself. But yeah, seeing that part, that character to me was the scariest I've seen. That part is crazy, you know. And wow, and now that you mentioned it, yeah, it's a teen for teen game. Am I correct? It's not an infant mature title, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah, to my knowledge, I do believe it's a teen for teen. Like they lowered the rating,
so.
but it's crazy.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't like recommend kids um, watching it, in my opinion.
No.
But it's crazy. Like I think it was recently too. My nephew said, "Oh yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. I like that." I'm like, "What? What do you, who's allowing you to see this?" You know, well, that's funny. But all right. But in other words, it is a game that you recommend, a game that you would try, and you wanted to come to Xbox. It's just not available on that platform yet.
Yeah.
Correct?
I'd like it on Xbox. Please. Please.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I hope it does well, and I agree with you too, because like, what definitely interests me about this game is obviously the originals, they're classics, right? I think also to the wait, now that I remember, Five Nights at Freddy's Most Wanted, that is a remake, so to speak, of the originals. You can't free roam but they completely remade it into modern graphics and stuff, and also as VR capabilities, which actually I do own. I do own a PlayStation VR, and I own that game. So yeah, I still haven't played that. That I realize it now that I'm talking. But anyway, yeah. Maybe I have to stream that one day.
Mhm.
But um, but yeah, what really intrigued me was this first person view, free roaming, and yeah, seeing the trailers. Like just walking and you turn around and you see Roxy, that's her name is, like just running after you, whatever. I think it's creepy. So, yeah, but yeah, we'll see. Can't wait to get my hands on the game soon. I've been getting a lot of requests to stream it. Of course, from you, Mika, as well.
Please,
More like,
please.
yeah. But also a buddy of mine. Oh my goodness, Killer Bob and his wife, and yeah, I think even my sister. So I don't know. I have to come to the decision of that. I mean, excuse me. I just gotta get the game first. I want to stream it. I just gotta get the game. So yeah, God will not get that soon. You know. Any closing remarks on any of the games that we've spoken here on this episode?
So you mean like all the games you never finished, or like the one that you
Never mind. All
did?
right, listeners. So you only completed 2. I completed 2. Yeah, we beat it. The same thing. Yeah, you completed 2. I completed 2.
Except you
It's down the
presented more
middle.
than 4 games. You presented like 8 because you did the sequels with them.
I don't know how to respond to that. I feel shocked. I feel attacked. I feel,
Offended?
but
You offended?
I'm sure there's more games that you haven't mentioned on this show that you haven't completed. Just saying.
Yeah.
Right. So with that being said, no, but anything else you want to add, or maybe even any honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions.
If not, it's okay.
I feel like there was one that I was like, oh, I should have talked about that one, and I forgot it. So, no. No, I
No. All right. Oh, help me pronounce his name. Call of Kaichu.
don't. Call a Pikachu?
Call of
Pikachu, I
What's that
choose
guy?
you?
Pika Pika. Uh,
Pikachu.
Pika 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 B. Call of Raichu. No, I was kidding.
Where
That's
you
what.
at, though?
No, but
Isn't that
yeah,
like
isn't it?
Call
Isn't
of Chihula or something?
yeah? There you go. Chuhala. I mean, what did I just say?
Valhalla?
Chuhala. Chuhala.
Valhalla?
Chuhala.
The Viking?
Oh man, Chuhala. Isn't that like from Black Panther? Anyway, whatever
T'Challa.
that name is.
Oh.
There you go. I'm so confused.
Me
but
too.
but that game, I know you wanted to mention, and it was a reboot of the original Xbox version.
Mhm.
You played it, am I correct?
I played it. I didn't get to finish it. I don't remember exactly why. I think something just happened and I just stopped playing video games for a long time. I just never went back and finished it. So, but from what I remember, it was fun and like I wanted to get through the whole thing and I got pretty far. I just never went back to it for some reason.
Awesome.
I'm starting to sound like
Okay.
you, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself.
No, I was good.
Best bad influence ever.
It's a bad influence. Listen, it happens. Just
Listen,
sometimes you get busy. And, something. Sometimes another game calls you and you put to rest one, and yeah.
or
At
some.
least that's what helps me sleep at night. That was good. What?
I said or someone.
Or someone. Yeah, you pull my attention away. No, I was kidding. Yeah. But other than all, like overall, I mean, you enjoyed the game. That was good. Is this something that you would recommend?
Yes. From what I remember.
Would you pay
Yeah.
for the game?
No.
What you
No.
No? You would? Okay. If you could get the game for free, recommend trying it.
Yeah.
But if you have to pay $5, no, it's too much.
It's at like
Oh,
a
okay.
garage sale or something, you know. Pick it up. Make sure the disc isn't too
Secondhand.
scratched.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was, man, as we were talking, yeah, this will be the last game because I know we're running out of time here. But as we were speaking earlier in the episode, one game that I was going to talk about on this episode that I decided to remove actually was the Fear series. Fear stands for First Encounter Assault Recon. It's a first-person shooter, psychological horror. You play as this. I think his name is Point Man, but part one, part two, like again, it originally released back in 2005 on the PC, and it was a launch title. Actually, yeah, I think later in 2005 for the Xbox 360. It's an outstanding first-person shooter. You get to slow down time. You play as Point Man, I think his name is, and his reflexes are off the charts. AKA, he could slow down time, and you could dual like SMGs, pistols. You're fighting super soldiers in the game, but then you have this scary little girl that appears throughout the game called Elma, and she will jump scare you throughout the game. She sometimes you would have an objective or whatever, and then she would just kill everyone around you. And yeah, and it's overall when I played it, I was scared. I was a scaredy cat, you know. But I beaten it, and I remember though, like that's when the game came back in 2005. When it came out in 2005, I mean, later, like recent time, right? Because it's backwards compatible on the Xbox Series X and Xbox One. Playing it today, right? Me being 22 years old, I'm like, man, I thought this game was scary. Like, because it's what is, and it's funny because I even streamed it on my channel once, and every person says the same thing. They're like, because I always say, "Oh man, it's a scary game, right? It's horrifying." But from my friend Wallcrawler that's been on the show, my boy Kara, and other people that tune into my streams, they all said the same thing. They said, honestly, Kara, since you started playing the game and being like 2 hours into it, I'm waiting for the scary parts. I feel like it's a very great action game to the max. As a matter of fact, I want to play it. Fun action. But I do not see the horror elements in it. I'm like, what? No, it is. And then, yeah. So that's the reason why I made no sense. I said sort of twice. I withdrew that game from my list, or rather this series from my list. To me, the scariest was part two, in my opinion, because they allow I can't talk. They allowed more jump scares. Elma gets more in your face, and also other stuff happens in the game. And part three actually is cooperative. You can actually play that with another player. There are some scary scenes, but not as scary as part two, or even Fear Files. Fear Files, I do believe, is the scariest out of the series. Fear Files is the it takes place right after where part one leaves off. It's for PC, it's a DLC, but for 360, they decided to make it its own game, Fear Files, where it's two campaigns, and it's called a Fear Extraction Point, and it takes place directly after part one, and then it goes to part two and then part three. I do recommend the series, especially they're backwards compatible. Part one and part three are FPS boost if you have an Xbox Series X, and S, I do believe. Part two, I do believe, runs at an unlocked frame rate, so it does run at 60 frames per second. Fear Files is locked to 30 frames per second. So, yeah, if you're big on performance, which I think, seeing your reaction, you kind of care less. Uh, no, if you care about performance, yeah, that's definitely, I think it's a better time than ever to experience the games. But yeah, they're really cool, and I like them. So to me, that's an honorable mention. All right. Yeah. So with that being said, any final remarks on the topic?
I think we did it.
We did.
We
All right.
did it.
All right, listeners. Well, I want to say thank you so very much for tuning into me. To tuning into this very, very special episode. Again, not only I made a milestone of the 50th episode of True Way Gaming, but I actually, again, very important person coming on the show today, a special guest, Mika. Again, where like I mentioned briefly earlier in this podcast, if it wasn't for her, I've never met most of my Xbox Live friends, especially Caroline, who featured on the show and actually does the intro and outro of the show. yeah, was for Mika. I've never met her, and Mika's awesome. Guys, she's awesome. And again, just me giving honor when honor is due, and she's an amazing blessing. I'm telling you, man, speaking to her like for 5 minutes, I'm telling you, you're gonna feel blessed. You're gonna feel blessed. You're gonna feel the spirit of God upon you. It's awesome. Mighty woman of God, share wisdom. I'm telling you. And yeah, see the glory all over her. I smile. Anyway, yeah. So, all right. But guys, so yeah, listeners, if you have any questions and our topics here that you want us to address here on the show, you can send your question and our topic at twgpquestions@gmail.com. Make sure you write a question or a topic at the subject bar. Make sure you leave your name so I can properly address you here on the show. And God willing, hopefully your topic and our question will be featured on the next episode. Also, I do have a Twitter, and you can follow me on Twitter at Chue Gaming. I'm also on Instagram, where you can follow Chue Gaming Podcast. I know I have not posted anything in a long time. I promised you guys for a long time that I will step up on that. To be honest, it's been a big challenge for me. But God has sent somebody to help me with that, and you see more activity on there. Won't name any names. I have an awesome manager who's awesome. God bless him. Yeah, and then and then also you can follow Chue Gaming Podcast on YouTube. I'm also on YouTube as well. Chue Gaming Podcast. And yeah, and I'm forgetting anything else. Not sure.
I think that's everything.
So I think there's probably one more thing. But all right, guys. I'm Carl, and
I'm Mika.
yes, so proud of you. And this is the end of our transmission. Outro. I say outro. This is what you say. Outro. Yeah. Man, so awesome. So made it through.
Yay.
God bless you.